Hello, I'm Heidi and I'm an elementary art teacher. This is the presentation that I give my third graders to teach them the concept of emphasis. Now, does anyone here know what we mean when we say focal point? It's very likely that the kids will not be able to articulate what a focal point is. Now, does anyone here know what the word focus means? Now, the kids will be much more apt to be able to articulate the word focus. In art, the focal point is what you look at first. Artists have ways of making you look at what they want you to. Now, in this picture, what did you notice first? So, of course, the kids are going to notice the red apple. You can explain that the red apple is the focal point, and the way that the artist made you look at that apple in particular was by making it a different color, providing a contrast. What about this one? What do you think is the focal point of this picture? Now, they're likely going to say the hand or the flower, and this gives you the opportunity to point out that the flower and the hand are closer to you, but also they're the only thing in focus. You can see that there's a child back there, but you can't see it clearly. So we create a focal point by putting something closer to you and putting the rest of the picture out of focus. Also here, we're using a bright contrasting color. What about this picture? What's the first thing you see in this picture? Now, they might name a lot of things. Most kids are going to say the chairs. So when you ask them, well, why the chairs? They will probably say because they're white, because they're close to us. You can also point out that they're in the center. Then I usually take a moment to say, well, what else? Now that you have more time, what else do you see in the picture? And they'll say they see the wall and the grass and the house and the trees and the other things. But then we can come back to, but you can see how the chairs are the focal point because that's what you looked at first. In this one, we have the bright color, the fact that it's in the center, the fact that most of it is out of focus, but you have a very clear circle in the middle. Now, who knows what emphasis is? Emphasis is a way of making people pay attention. When you're writing, there are several ways to emphasize things. You can use an exclamation point. You can underline. You can circle. You can add an arrow. If you are speaking, you can say things very softly, or you can say them very loudly, and these things will create emphasis. How do artists use emphasis to create a focal point? That is, what do they put the emphasis on to trick you into looking where they want you to look? As we've already discussed, there are many ways. Contrast, that is making one thing different. Color, the great colors for creating emphasis are red, white, yellow. Hot pink can work too. Position, if you put the thing you want to emphasize in the middle of the picture, people are going to be more likely to look at it. And focus, if you make one thing in focus and everything else blurry, we're going to naturally look at the thing that's in focus. What about exaggeration? How do we exaggerate something? When we exaggerate, we make something bigger or more impressive than it really is. What did the artist exaggerate in this cartoon? Well, Mr. Thornberry's nose is very big. There are a lot of things exaggerated in this cartoon, but the artist wanted you to look at Mr. Thornberry's nose first. What about little Dumbo? Of course, the whole story is about how exaggerated Dumbo's ears are. So naturally, everybody looks at those first, and poor little Dumbo gets made fun of. This assignment is going to be about putting the emphasis on the eyes. We're going to exaggerate the eyes because as humans, we always notice faces first. And if the eyes are exaggerated, we naturally look at the eyes. Let's look at these exaggerated eyes. All of these pictures have exaggerated eyes. The artist wanted to create a focal point so that you would look at the eyes first. And of course, This cute little guy naturally has exaggerated eyes. For this project, we're going to put the emphasis on the eyes to create a strong focal point. In my class, we use oil pastels on black paper, but there are many different ways to do this. Here's some ideas you can use. You can draw whatever you want, but it has to have great big white eyes to create a strong focal point. See how powerful big white eyes can be. Here are some different ways that my students put the emphasis on the eyes to create a focal point. I can't wait to see what you do with this challenge.